Bam. All right, I'm back. So, to end off the day, I'd like to introduce to you our final speaker for today. His name is Krisjon. Let me read his bio to you. Krisjon is the founder and the chair of the Five Dimes Foundation. He holds a Master of Science degree in Applied Physiology and Kinesiology, athletic therapy, massage therapy, and in certifications in strength and conditioning. After completing his education in 2001, Krisjon interned with the Canadian basketball, where he's remained on staff ever since and is currently the head athletic trainer for the junior national team and assistant athletic trainer to the senior national team. Krisjon is also the founder of Func, a multidisciplinary team of functional movement experts helping elite athletes and active lifestylers recover from injuries. An active community member, Krisjon is a big believer in paying it forward and provides mentorship to many young physicians and high-performance athletes. So that is a little bio of him. And yes.
My man.
Hey, buddy. Nice
Hey,
to
good to
see
see
you.
you. Really good to see you, man.
Good. Representing with love.
Always, always, always.
Yeah, man. It's always interesting to read somebody's bio after knowing them for so much. Brief introduction. I actually met you when I went through one of the worst injuries of my life. I actually thought that was it for me, for my running, for my movement, for everything. And like spending time with you, just, it wasn't just like the way that I describe it was I felt like I was a reverse prostitute. And the way that I say it was I went to so many physios and physicians and they told me to take off my clothes, get on the table. They would touch me and then I would pay them, but I wouldn't get anything from it. But they would tell me to come again, come again, come again. And when I went to you, it was interesting because the exchange was different. I got on the table. It wasn't I got on the table. We sat, we discussed, we had a conversation. You actually wanted to know more about what happened versus trying to give me a solution. And then when we got to the point where when you were checking me out, there was that energy exchange, taking it easy, slow, feeling the body, letting me know what's going on, preparing me for something that if you had to do, your famous word is, I'm not giving you an option, I'm going to do it. I'm just letting you know. And helping the body, and at the end of it, it's the exchange, it's the conversation. But once I was done, you weren't like, go put on your clothes and get out of here. You were, take a moment, rest, let your body do this. And there was a conversation that we exchanged.
Yeah.
And I thought that was extremely important.
Yeah, I think that's in our industry, it's a shame that people tend to forget that the missing piece of healthcare is actually caring. And I think that was such a poignant thing in my career to realize that, like, I say this every now and then when I see a client who always looks hesitant and kind of taken aback at our approach, that things are a little bit different. And I always remind them that, this woman who was sitting on my table the other day looked very hesitant. I told her, like, hey, man, like, you're somebody's daughter, somebody's mother, somebody's aunt. And I have those people in my life who I hold very dearly. And if anybody should treat you poorly, they have every right to come after me. And I told her I respect her in that way, that not only are you somebody's loved one like I have, but you're a human. And above all else, you're a human first. And everything, our experiences and what becomes of us is the outcome of what we are, but that's not the end result of who we are. And my job is to figure out your story, not only as a person, but as a human body, to figure out really the best way to help you. I'm not a healer by any means. I'm just a guy that tries to come up with solutions. And I got to listen to the problem first. And that starts with just being human.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very, very important stance in the way that you approach it. So I know we can talk about this, and we will definitely go more into this in a little bit, but tell me about you, man. Tell me about your background. Tell me about what got you into this. Tell me about, this journey that you went on.
Oh, and it's kind of crazy. My buddy Mark always laughs because I was asked to write a bio years and years ago, and I actually didn't realize this was happening. I remember back in 92, 93 when the Blue Jays were the team to beat. And I remember sitting there watching with my dad, and this guy ran out to the mound because Tom Hankey's shoulder was messed up. And I looked at my dad and said, Dad, I want to be that guy. And my dad looked at me and was like, well, you had to be in school a lot. That's a doctor. I'm like, oh, crap, here we go. My whole focus for like a lot of high school in getting into university was like, well, I want to be a doctor then, if that's going to be me. I learned really quickly in university that I was not cut out for it. I wasn't in the right mental space for it. I made many, many mistakes in the first couple of years of university, and I'll call them more lessons now than anything. But I came to learn, or I came to run into the right people at the right time. And when I was just in a troubled space in my life, like I was just a lost soul going through the motions because I was expected to be this doctor, and it wasn't what I really wanted. I wasn't listening to my soul. And like, as the universe should have it, I reconnected with my sister's friend who was the head athletic trainer for the Raptors at the time. And I had no idea what athletic therapy was. And I had no idea of like what it encompassed. And he kind of guided me to this path of going down this road. At that point, I decided to make the switch. I wanted to switch careers or switch paths. My dad, who I consider a very wise man, told me like, hey man, you're pot committed to university. Finish this degree first and come out with something. Like, you can't just leave this hanging now. So I finished that. I jumped ship to Sheridan College, which was an applied degree. At the time, it was so competitive that you almost needed a degree to get into the program. So luckily, my dad was right. I jumped ship. And that's when the world changed. Like, I felt like I found my home. I felt like I found my people. Like, the people were actually listening to my needs as a student and as a person. And they weren't just shoving me in the corner like, oh, you're number 980971680. This was your mark. These people knew me as a person. They knew my name. They even gave me a nickname that still sticks. Some of you out there watching, my really, really good friends called me Gramps because I was the oldest Chris in the class. And that name stuck, and those became some of my best friends and some of my more enlightening situations in my career. From third year going into fourth year, I had the opportunity to become an intern with Canada Basketball, and that's when things completely changed for me. I found the mentors that I needed. I found the drive. I found the purpose. Sam Gibbs, who's not on social media, which is hilarious. There's a running hashtag called #FreeSamGibbs. We kind of want him around, but he's not on social media. But he became the silent mentor to me. I looked up to him on so many different levels. His thing for me wasn't so much about keeping me down, but it was elevating me as a person and elevating me as a professional. And I'll always look up to him for that. He opened up a lot of opportunities for me. I then decided to do my master's at University of Florida, where I worked with a lot of sports teams there, gained experiences that a lot of Canadians unfortunately don't have or haven't had the chance to have. I went to a D1 school where I experienced winning a championship there on two different sports. From there, I went to Michigan State University, did football and basketball. At that point, Canada Basketball officially hired me as part of the staff, and I started managing my own team. And it all culminated maybe about 5-6 years ago, which is the most poignant part of my career, my life, really, in general, to be honest with you. I had this crazy opportunity, as luck should have it, that the national team was in a qualifying tournament that happened to be hosted by Manila, Philippines. And it was probably the most poignant point of my career. I had the opportunity to go, and I bared my head. I was a young therapist, still a young therapist, and I bared my head and told myself, I got to focus. This is my shot. I got to prove myself, and I got to take care of these guys. Like, I got to earn this role to do this. And somewhere along the line, when the plane landed in Philippines and the cameras started focusing on me and people started asking me questions, I started to realize that this was a little bit different. And I felt like I got punched in the gut because then I realized that the career and the profession that I love, with the sport that I love, with people that I love, all culminating in the motherland was just such an unreal emotion to feel. It just kind of blew my mind, and it kind of took me aback for a little bit. But again, I tried to refocus and stick to that stuff. In the whole process of staying in the hotel, you're a little bit entitled, and you get a little bit lucky in the sense that like the players and the staff get fed almost like this buffet line service. In the first couple of days, the first couple of meals, I always found it awkward that the staff was just staring at me, but giving me this extra level of care and extra level of service. And it felt a little bit humbling to me and weird because I'm just the therapist. I'm not one of the players. The players should be getting all the attention. By the third day, everybody else started noticing, like, why is he getting all this attention and what's going on? So it started to get a little bit awkward, and not to sound political, I I didn't feel like that I warranted that attention. So by the third meal, which was about breakfast, I approached the manager, almost angry and a little bit more aggressive than I should have been. And I said, listen, you got to tell the staff to stop doing this. This isn't the right way to take care of people. These guys are the ones you should be taking care of. These guys are the ones stepping on the court. These guys are the ones worth millions. Take care of these guys. And she kind of put her hand around my shoulder and put me aside and said, son, you don't understand. And I'm like, what is it? And she looked me in the eye, something along the lines of saying to me, the fact that as a son of two Filipino immigrants coming back to the motherland in the role that you have and the dream that you have and now facing them shows all these people that dreams can come true. And it almost shattered me. And I literally broke down a little bit. I put my plate of food down and ran back to my hotel room. And I called my mom and dad, just like sobbing and just thanking them for everything they've done for me. And like apologizing for taking so much for granted and not realizing the sacrifice they made. It was at that point that in my head, I started the idea of like, you know what, I gotta leverage what I do and give back. Like I've been given too much to not be able to give back. So I kind of like secretly started asking guys like, hey, if you have anything left over, give it to me so I can hand it out to these people and more the people who are more in need than we are. By the end of the tournament, unfortunately, we had lost and we didn't succeed. But I don't want to name names, but guys like Tristan Thompson and Tyler Ennis, they kind of put stuff away and put it aside in a bag and then handed it out to the staff to give away to the people in the hotel that were working there. And that was like, this is something I can help with. This is something I can leverage. This is something I can share. That these guys will help and these guys will support this whole cause. So when I got back, I ran home with my sister and I kind of asked her for help. We started the Five Dimes Foundation. The name has several different meanings. If you guys are ever interested in reading up on it, look up fivedimesfoundation.org. My sister and I are trying very hard to keep that going. It's a little bit more difficult than it sounds, but that's my passion play. And that's kind of what I realized, that my purpose in life is to help, whether it's in the clinic, on the basketball court, social activism, or just supporting those who are in need. That's my job. That is what I'm supposed to do. And everything I do now is aimed towards that. And I guess to put my career in a nutshell, that's all it is. I'm just trying to help in whatever way possible.
Mm-hmm. I really like that. So I have a few questions. One, what when you went to school and you're the oldest person, why didn't that deter you from continuing your studies?
I actually took it as an advantage. I looked at the younger guys, and they just, maybe it's the level of maturity, maybe it was understanding that what I wanted was different. My focus and clarity was above and beyond what they were at. And I mean, no offense to them, like I love them. I think one of them is actually watching this. I love her to bits. And she's actually one of the ones that kind of pushed me along. As much as she was younger, her drive was just as strong. But it was more of understanding, like, I know what I want. And I didn't care. The most favorite thing my dad has ever told me, outside of going to Sheridan College and being one of the oldest, even going to University of Florida to do my master's, I was humming and hawing about whether or not to go to Florida for 2 years. And this conversation with my dad will always stick with me. He said, how old do you think you're going to live? And I was like, I don't know, Dad. Like, I'll say like 80 maybe. Like, that's about the average. And he said, like, let's round it up to 100. Technology these days might get you to 100. You might be able to make it. And if you live healthy and you eat right and you keep moving, you'll be okay. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, let's say 100. And at that point, my dad said, like, well, let's call that 100 a dollar. Let's call that 100 pennies. And I won't swear on this, but my dad said, you're telling me that you can't give me 2 pennies for the next 70 years of your life? You got to be kidding me. And at that point, I realized, yeah, who cares? Like, who cares how old you are? Like, you've got the rest of your life to live and live it on your terms. And it was that little conversation with my dad that kind of changed my perspective. And like, yeah, who cares how old you are? It doesn't matter. It's just an age. It's just a number. And to that point, if she's still following this, she's still watching. Nicole was the youngest, but she was amazing. She had a similar drive, and it's just a number. Age was just a number, even though she was one of the youngest.
I think that's a really good point, especially for the people that are watching and listening, because end of the day, it's like, don't let things become your limitation, your obstacle.
Right.
It's like,
right.
If you want to do it, you can do it at the age of 50, 60, 70, 30, 40, like whatever age that you choose to do it, just go do it, because 5 years from now, you're going to be like, oh, I should have done it 5 years ago. 10 years from now, you're like, I should have done 10 years ago.
Well, yeah,
So,
yeah, even to that, I talk to my intern all the time to think that I'd be here 10 years ago. I would never have thought that unless I actually just did something about it. Like
mhm.
10 years ago, I would not have thought that I'd be a world champ, a U19 world champ. That I've won several different rings. I've won medals. I own my own facility. Like we have a shot at the Olympics. Like what? Are you kidding me? But if I didn't take the chance to, I think the biggest thing is if I didn't take the chance to believe in myself that this is something I could do, that I never would have even started.
So what did you do along the way when you had doubts and you had negative thoughts and like negative thoughts around
Oh,
mhm,
yeah, my rock is my family. It's funny now that I'm older, I kind of realize how much I am like my parents, and how much they've influenced me. And I realize more and more that how much I am like my mom. She
mhm.
is, people will say that she is stubborn. I like to think that she just really knows what she wants. And she never let anybody tell her otherwise. And I guess it's just the same side of the both coins, or like somebody sees it as like stubborn and unrelenting, and I see it as like strong-willed and understanding what she wants. And I took that from her. I didn't let anybody tell us we couldn't do it. And even that being said, going back to our nonprofit, I look at my parents and I ask myself, man, my dad came to Canada like 22 years old with literally coins in his pocket. And how the hell do I look him in the eye and tell him I can't do anything? Like I couldn't do it as a son, as a human, as not on a sexist level, but as a man to man, look at my dad in the eye and tell him I can't do that. Are you
Mhm.
kidding me? This man left everything, left his family behind, got on a plane, didn't know anybody in Toronto, and literally used the coins in his pocket and went through a phone book. I don't know if you kids out there remember what a phone book is, but my dad literally thumbed through um, the phone book at the Toronto airport to look for a name that he'd recognized, and he found somebody. They took him in for a couple of days. So to understand that at the age of 22, 23, to leave a country and do that, and I can't do something like impossible. So you throw that will of my father into it, and that unrelenting strength of my mother, and you kind of get me as a smaller byproduct of it. Well, I won't let people tell me I can't do it. I just got to
Mhm.
figure out how to do it. And so you guys out there know I am lazy. So I will find the easiest way to do it. I just won't let anybody tell me I can't do it.
So you find your own approach of doing it. You'll complete it, but you'll complete it
Yeah,
your way.
I'll get there. I'll do it my way.
It's funny, like to hear the word you say lazy when, when I sit with you and your your approach is not a lazy approach. Your approach is very different from anybody that I've met so far from, when I was going through like my 6 months of looking for for help to learn
Sure.
how to use my body again. And then there's also aspects of you that you talk about spirituality and you speak about mentors. And how does this play in your life?
But the idea of spirituality, it's not even an idea. It's the moment of finally connecting and understanding. And that in itself was a journey in myself that I look back in my life and realize that there were mentors along my life leading me to a path to find myself.
Hmm.
Even speaking to that, like one of my other mentors, Charlie Weingroff, who I adore dearly, kind of used this analogy where like people live in subsequent snow globes. And there's levels to that where I'm in a snow globe bigger than the person I'm mentoring now, and I can see around them that they can't see. But I have a mentor above me who sees around me that I just can't see the things around me. At the times of my life, there were parts of me that I just didn't see, and I needed those people in those bigger snow globes, or those guys like who I called mentors, but in different realms to kind of show me different things. One of my very dearest friends, Srikesh, who lives in Japan, was like my spiritual mentor. He enlightened me into understanding who I was on such a different level, and kind of pointed me into the direction of understanding that the mistakes I made weren't mistakes. They were just signs to show you which way you're supposed to go. And he was the one of the biggest people that showed me that. And he led me to a path to look inward, so that the answer is within me, not outside of me. And that process of understanding who I was what led me to understand what spirituality meant to me. And I think that's a bigger pointed thing, that spirituality means so many very different things to different people, and understanding what that means to somebody else is what helps me try to connect to that person on a different level. Your idea of spirituality, regardless of religion, is very, very different than from what I have been taught or what I believe it is. But
Hmm.
until I can figure out who I am, I'll never be able to have that conversation with you to really truly understand who you are. So the idea of being a healthcare practitioner starts from within to be able to understand without. In that sense, the process of understanding who I am is where I did my work, and now trying to figure out who you are is the easy part, where I can
Mhm.
be lazy and kind of figure it out. Once you know yourself, you can figure everything else out.
Interesting. So before you met your mentor in Japan, what was your thought process?
I didn't have one,
Hmm.
and I think that was a scary thing, and I hate to share this with everybody publicly, but my first 2 years of university we'll say it was very experimental. In all fairness, I learned a lot about who I was and what I can tolerate and can't tolerate, and there was no process. I think part of it was a fear of looking in, so I would hide it and mask it and distort it in several different ways, so I didn't have to face reality until I like I said, I met my buddy and he kind of changed it for me.
Hmm.
So to speak to that spirituality level in terms of mentor, it was the start of figuring out who I was first,
So why even let something like that come into your life?
because it is life.
Hmm.
I think it's just nothing more simple than that. I think part of why I've come to learn that I find a way to simplify things that works in my head, um, but it's almost to the point that it's obvious. And I mean, no offense to you, but like, how does that become part of life? Like, because that is life, and there's nothing more simple than that.
What I mean is more as how did that individual become part of your life? For example, was there something that you felt that was missing or lacking that when you spoke to this
Oh,
individual?
oh,
Hmm.
Srikesh, yeah, yeah. Like he forced me to. He's. I don't even want to use the word force.
Hmm.
He was the actually it was him and my other friend Macian were the ones that were patient enough to understand that they were in a snow globe bigger than mine, and they were trying to support my growth so that I can get to their level. So that
Hmm.
they had this understanding of knowing that I was on the right path, but I needed guidance. Um, and it was their support and patience that I appreciated. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was because of their support and patience that I grew to who I became.
Hmm.
Um, so to be honest with you, at the time, I can't give you an answer. Like this was 20, 25 years ago. I couldn't give you an answer as to why I let them into my life. I had a lot of fun with them. Now I look back and I realize I had fun with them because they were allowing me to express myself. They were allowing me to explore who I was and who I wanted to become, but they kept me safe so that I wasn't going off the deep end.
Hmm.
And I think
But
that's sorry, go
mhm.
ahead.
Please continue.
No, no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because you're using the word allow, do you feel like you weren't allowed previous to this, or you didn't think that you had the option of it?
A little bit of both. Growing up, as a child of immigrants, you grow like, being in a new world. You almost want to protect whatever you have because you don't know what's out there. And as fast as this world is changing, I don't blame my parents for kind of shielding us from different experiences. I went to a school that was very sheltered, for the lack of better terms, very socially sheltered
Hmm.
from the rest of the real world. And then you expose myself to the University of Toronto, where this is just this whole new world that was just happening in front of me. So in that sense, they were kind of shielding me from problems. And I don't want to say allow. I say allow because I didn't even know it existed, in the sense that I wasn't allowed to because I didn't know it was a possibility to.
Hmm.
And that I think was a bigger point in chance part of my life when I realized like yes, um, it is okay to express yourself. It is okay to make mistakes. It is okay to learn. That is part of my journey and process of becoming who I am.
I think it's a really interesting. Yeah, I just find that a lot of times we go through our lives and we don't know that we're allowed something until somebody gives us an option to show us that we're like, oh,
Right,
I didn't even know, and
right.
then
I
you
didn't
kind
even
of
know I could. Yeah, yeah,
exactly, and then
yeah. I
all of a
didn't.
sudden it's like, hmm,
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like the one cool thing with my parents, even though they like sheltered me from what they thought might have been dangerous, they also allowed me to explore, just explore. They put me in sports and said, yeah, you don't like it, then get out. They put me in arts, they didn't like it. They put me in music and I hated it. But because they allowed me to go into these different endeavors, I learned more about myself. I just didn't know that I could learn more about myself on several other different levels, on metaphysical
hmm,
levels, on spiritual levels. Like I said, like I was kind of shielded in the sense that I was raised in a very Catholic way, not realizing that I was allowed to explore Buddhism. I was allowed to explore Hinduism. I was allowed to do all these things and take the good from the bad and live the good and take away the bad and understand different people and increase my level of tolerance and just allowing people not only for me to experience them, but for them to experience me. And it's
Hmm.
okay to open up. And that took a lot of time for me to get to.
Have you found that the spiritualism and the other aspects of your life that you've studied has played a part in your career and other parts of your life?
Oh, absolutely. Like the spiritual side of things is the pure essence of who we are as people. I find it very fortunate that I can, at least with myself, tap into who I am and see if that air quotes frequency taps into the person I'm working with. I
Hmm.
use this analogy with a lot of clients with that so that they understand that it's nothing personal if I refer them to somebody else, in the sense that I think all people or all therapists in this realm at least are artists. And we have this energy that we can exude that's very unique to this kind of person. In all fairness, the client that comes in may have a frequency that works with me or an energy that works with me. I might be a sculptor, you might be a painter, my other massage therapist, um, he might be abstract art. But myself as a painter, the client that comes in, if they walk in as like marble or granite, I have no business working with them. I'm not the one for them. I'm not the appropriate person, not only to communicate with them, but to treat them. And it would almost be less efficient for me to even attempt to. And that being said, like it's never personal when I suggest to somebody else that like you should be seeing this person because I'm not the appropriate person for you. It has the biggest role in not only my decisions as a therapist, but my decisions in life. Like it kind of guides me. Like how do I feel about this energy that this person is exuding towards me? It also starts to lead to my wanting to understand why. Why is your energy like this? Are you angry? Are you dealing with a hard part of life right now? Are you struggling with something, or are
Hmm.
you experiencing something of happiness and excitement? Like why are you like that? Um, and it kind of helps me deter bad energy from myself, but accept good.
I like that very much. So along your way, like your path and everything that you're going on, is there one moment, like you spoke about your father and
Mhm.
the conversation you had, but is there any other moments that have you would call almost like an awakening moment or a moment that just gave you a shift in perspective?
Yeah, there were several, I think. Now that I look back in life, um, there was one other moment at U of T when I was struggling with who I was and wasn't being or expressing the person I should have been, and I hurt a few people in that path. Um, I found myself left alone in the dark because I hurt those people. And being alone in that sense of solitude on a physical and spiritual level is actually what was one of the most important parts of my life. To
Hmm.
really self-reflect and look myself in the mirror, like, what did I do? And is that the person I want to be? So that
Hmm.
really changed my perspective on how I wanted to present myself to everyone else, and not only to myself, but how everybody else saw it. And I saw it as a way like, is this the person I want my parents to be proud of? Considering all the things that they've done, and I've kind of changed who I was at that point. I even kind of continued on. Like I said, the other poignant moment was going to Philippines with the basketball team. And I hate to bring it up again, but going to Philippines again, but seeing where my father grew up and where my mother grew up, and realizing that they
Yeah.
had come a very long way from where we are today, and everything that where I am is because of them. I mean, I owed everything to them, and that changed my perspective and my focus on what I was trying to do and what I wanted to do. So that completely changed everything, and those are some of the biggest things. Even traveling, I remember this one moment. This is going to sound really stupid, and it's become one of the things I do when I travel now is I'll set up at a cafe and open a chessboard. And
Hmm.
inevitably, no matter what part of the world I go to, somebody will, despite the lack of communication, somebody will sit down and play chess with me. Hands down, everywhere I've went. I've done it in Germany. I've done it in Cuba. I've done it in the Dominican. Maybe it's because they're Latin American countries, but Germany, I've done it. Greece, I've done it. So that's 5, 6 countries where somebody, I just literally sit there and open up a chessboard and somebody will play. Um, it's those moments in understanding that the universe is a lot smaller than we think it is. Even
Hmm.
though my perspective wants to be huge and I feel like this world is overwhelming, it's those little moments like that where I realize we're all just the same people. just broken up by language. And so it's a really crazy thing to kind of see the perspective and look understanding things that way.
Yeah, for sure, man. I definitely know that travel is something that just opens your mind. Even me going back to like, my mom's from Morocco. I went to Morocco, and like
Yeah,
when you're in the country where your parents are from and everybody looks like your cousins and your grandfather and your family,
yeah.
it gives you this feeling of feelings and then interacting and having conversations, and it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah,
phenomenal. It is
it's
very
a
much.
phenomenal feeling. Yeah, and it's almost self-grounding to find where you're from. Like, where did I come from?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I understand. Like, yes, we're all the worldly people, but to understand why I have the mannerisms I do, and look the way I do, and act the way I do, and like what things influence my parents, and that got handed down to me, and now I understand who I am and where I came from. It ultimately changes your perspective. I think when one of my friends, adventure hopping, is on this. She travels the world, and um, she's become one of the most beautiful people I've ever met on a very soul level. Like, I've learned so much from her in the short time I met her in Australia. She was awesome, and I take those moments of travel to actually understand and learn more about people, and that there's so much that they can teach me.
It's true. Also, when you lived in one culture for most of your life and then you travel to a next, like I lived in China for 9 years, that opened my eyes, and then China, and then Thailand, and moving all around, it opens your eyes. Like I was speaking with my friend today, it's just like he goes to South Africa where these kids are playing with a paper soccer ball, and they've
Yeah,
never been happier in their life because despite what we might think, they have it all, and they're happy with what they have. It's being happy in the moment with what you currently have. And travel teaches you how to, in a sense, let go of the baggage that you've been carrying to be
yeah,
lighter.
yeah, yeah. Like, you don't need anything really. And that's the one beauty of traveling that you start to realize. Even when I was backpacking through Asia a couple of years ago, I had this massive backpack from like Mountain Equipment Co-op that I barely opened. Like, what? I didn't even need this. Like,
Yeah.
what? I don't need this. Like, I need the person I'm with. I need the experiences that I'm sharing. Like, I want to explore these different foods, these different cultures, these different people. And travel is such an amazing thing that I've learned to love more and more as I get older. That it's almost a necessity. In fact, like when we hire somebody on staff here at the Movement Lab where we work, one of our biggest questions is like, do you travel? Because if you don't, I kind of question how open-minded you might be in terms of perspective of the real world and living in Canada, this multicultural world. Like, to really get a better grasp of who you're going to work with, it requires a little bit of travel to really understand who these people are.
It's true. And also traveling, what you put into your bag and how you pack your bag is very symbolic of who you are.
Who you are. Yeah, absolutely. And that is one huge thing I've learned. I've learned more and more that the more I travel, the less I want to take with me.
Because you know how much you're going to be bringing back in
Yeah,
here.
and on several different levels, on so many
Yeah.
different levels. And I think that's the beauty of travel.
Yeah, man, heart, body, soul, all those things. So when in your technique and your style, let's say, when you're treating a client, did you learn from another person to add in the energy aspect of it? Was it something that you decided to do yourself? Where did that come from?
It was weird, like, and I don't openly talk about it to a lot of people because some people just don't understand. But even going through school, when I was like learning how to do these techniques, I always felt like I was just a little bit different, and it wasn't just like a mental different because I knew I was older, but I would ask, like, do you guys feel this, or am I the only one feeling this, or is everybody else feeling this? And I remember
Hmm.
one of my teachers looked at me and was like, "Oh, you can feel that." So to a certain degree, I kind of knew I was different right off the bat.
Hmm.
Um, it wasn't until I met someone who became my shaman, Sarah. I don't know if she's watching this, but she allowed me to explore that.
Hmm.
But in fact, what she told me was like, you're already doing it because you're doing what you do out of love. You're already sharing this energy. What she was trying to teach me was how to temper it, when to give more, when to give less, when to block it, when to share it, when to reground, when's the best time to give it, who really needs it, and is it your energy that they need, or are you just the flagpost to direct them to somebody else? And that was again like where I really look into the inner spirituality of who I am to really give the best of who I am to whoever I interact with. So I guess to answer that question, I've always been doing it. It's just been part of who I am. It's just a matter of tempering Just like pressure, am I going softer or harder?
For sure. And I think it's very important to, when you get that idea of when you are getting a massage or you're getting physio or you're getting, there is an energy exchange. There are things going on. And this doesn't have to be a spiritual thing. This is science. This is truth. There's an
This is
exchange.
actual fact. Yeah.
This from
Like,
going from one person to the next. Yeah,
yeah. Like I am putting my hands on you, and your skin is getting hot. Like that is literally no better definition than exchange, energy
exactly. And
exchange. Like that's literally what it is.
my body will
And
react differently to somebody else's
yeah,
hands on my
yeah,
body, depending on
yeah.
the connection I have with the individual.
Absolutely. And that's why for those of you who ever come by to our facility, you'll understand we hug everyone.
Hmm.
There's nothing better than a warm, loving, true intentioned hug. Because there is energy shared, not exchanged, but that to us is a shared energy.
So, a couple more questions before we go. It's through your experience and your expertise for what you've seen in the industry that you're in. What's some advice that you'd give to people that are just coming into it? Things that they should look out for, things that they should do, things that they should refrain from, just things that you've seen over the years that you think would be great to share with others.
Uh, my mentor, my mentees ask me that same thing every now and then. And the weird thing is I never have a straight answer
Hmm.
because I find like my answers are always changing every time I have this conversation because I reflect back and look back at these pointed moments in my life and what do I share? What do I give you? Or oh, well, my mentee that just left earlier, it's like, what is the legacy that we want to leave behind? And what is it we want to be known for or to be understood and passed on to the next generations? And what I always try to tell people is uh, that it's an old adage, but like you got to fill your cup first before you can share with anyone else. And I'll kind of stick to that as my answer for today is just I got to take care of me first on a spiritual level and on a physical level before I can even consider giving to anyone else.
I like that. And
So
I think it's very important because a lot of times in a previous conversation, it's people are so quick to exhale, 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 but they forget to inhale. It's like you want to
yeah,
give, 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 but you got to take in stuff for yourself because you're the
right.
base, you're the foundation, you're the core to it all.
Right. It's a tricky and sticky situation as therapists. All you want to do is give. That's why you're a
Hmm.
therapist. You just want to help people, but you tend to forget to help yourself first. And that's not being selfish. That's just
No,
understanding the relationship of you. The analogy I always use is why does that person always go on a yo-yo diet? It's not the person, it's the relationship they have with food. Or why does that person always in debt? Or why does that guy always want more money? It's what was his relationship with money? And to answer the question, to kind of like sum it all up for me, it's like, well, what's your relationship with yourself?
mm-hmm.
And until you come to terms with that, it'll be very hard for you to be able to give to somebody who's looking for the same answers.
100%, man. It is a very, I really like the point that you bring out too. It's the relationship we have, the very big relationship. I know before I met you, it's even like my relationship with working out, like it was like, okay, stronger, more, 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 because it was almost like externally I needed to be big and strong so I could show people that I can do these things and I can look
Yep.
great with my shirt off. But but that's just showing that internally I have insecurities. Internally, I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
strong. Internally, that these things are happening until eventually all those internal insecurities led to a boom back and then
Yep.
and let me on the journey to be
Yep.
and to meet you. So I really do like the fact, and that's a very, very, very important point to say. It's like understand your relationship with things. So last question before we go. It is, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would you tell them?
Well, um, it's okay to fail, man. It's okay. As lame as an answer as that is, um, my girlfriend, in fact, hates it when I say it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. I mean, and she doesn't understand the bigger picture of where that comes from for me. For me, it's understanding that um, there's no such thing as failures. They're all just lessons. And if you walk away with it as a lesson, everything will be okay.
Hmm.
There are dark moments in life, and they will come, but they will also pass. But they won't come back if I don't let it come back. If I understand it to be a lesson, not a failure. And I think that's something I remember when I was younger, I'd beat myself up for it. When in fact now I'm standing on my failures, and that's why I am where I am now.
Yeah, it's the idea of like failing forward, learning, moving.
Failing forward, yeah.
Because even as a child, well, why do you think you're walking? It's because you had to fail at trying to crawl. But
Yeah.
at that point, it was okay. It was encouraged. But we get to a certain point where the outside people aren't encouraging us to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But we have to
Yep.
find that encourage internally.
Right. And to kind of wrap it all up, I think that's what I loved about my parents was that they allowed me to fail.
Mm,
They didn't protect me from that. And
that's important.
and my dad made me get up. He didn't pick me up. Like, get up, clean it up, get up, let's go.
So important. All right, brother, before we go, I just want to acknowledge you and just say how grateful I am to have you in my life as the person that you are. You know, I walked into your place that one day and we formed this beautiful relationship. And just watching how you interact with other people, how as you grow as an individual, you also bring in other people. You help, you guide, you mentor, you also learn. You don't look at age as a factor of, well, I've done this for more years, so I can't learn from this individual. I like your curiosity, your, you know, and also your childlike play. But at the same time, it's that connectivity. You're sharp, you know it, you feel, you understand. And that in itself just makes anybody that gets to interact with you leave feeling recharged. And I'm very grateful for you and to have
Thank
you
you.
in my life the way you are.
Thank you. Like I've always told you this, I truly consider you family.
Appreciate it, brother.
You're a brother to me.
So before we go, where can people find you, man? Tell me where. Instagram,
Oh
Facebook,
man,
where
several different outlets because I have several different interests. So some of you who don't know, I love shoes more than most people ever will. But not on an aesthetic level. Like I'm that curious dude that wants to know why that material, why that design, why that placement, why there, why that, for what purpose. So one of the places we have is rentitback.reviews. That's on YouTube. You can look up that stuff. It's just fun. It's one of my fun outlets that I have a lot of fun with. On Instagram, it's those of you already on this kind of already see it. It's basketball_Kris with a K, Kris. We also have our website, the team that we built, who I love so dearly. It's themovementlab.club. Read up on us there if you want to book appointments, see what we do. Absolutely jump on that. If you want to support the foundation we're doing, the 5dimesfoundation.org, that's designed to help with physical health and education through sports. That's something we're working on. We would love support, and not on a financial level, but just ideas and administrative level. We need a little bit more help to get that going the way we want it to. Also, the funny thing I've always told everybody, like, I don't carry a business card because I got a smile. So just look for the bright smile wherever you're looking at. Come give me a hug.
I love it, man. I love you, brother. I appreciate your time, your energy, and thank you so much.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Chat soon, brother.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye.